about in the last few months, that in most Arab countries, 50 or 60% of the population is under the age of 30. If you look at numbers like in Egypt, as of a couple of years ago, recent university graduates have an unemployment level of about 30%. These are big numbers, and it's showing that the economy and the state are not able to bring people in to these institutions, into jobs, that the school system is not training people the way that the economy is requiring to do. So what we're seeing is people are turning to new labor unions. You know, many of the strikes that took place, and there were hundreds of strikes that took place over the last 7 to 8 years in Egypt, were in brand new companies that are very similar to what they're called the maquiladores on the Mexico-American border, the sweatshops there, that these free trade zones or the qualified industrial zones, they tend to have different names depending on what country, have sprouted up in places like Jordan and Egypt, and they're underpaying employees, they're underpaying them, they're not even paying them whatever the low minimum wage might be. They're often closing up shop when they don't get the profits that they want. And a lot of the strikes were coming out of those kinds of factories. So you're looking at people organizing in new kinds of ways. In the last few months, Jordan hasn't gotten anywhere near the press that Egypt has, but you've had public school teachers going on strikes throughout January and February because they were promised that they'd have a union and the state wouldn't allow them to have that union. You had municipal workers in Amman going on sit-in strikes because they don't like the pay they're getting. They also don't like the fact that many of the government services that the municipality of Amman have promised as a part of state service is now being privatized. So American contract companies are coming in and supplying services and paying less than the state would, and certainly not giving the kinds of healthcare and protection services that are usually associated with state jobs. So what I would say is they're about to give more detailed information about Egypt in particular, that what we are seeing is not necessarily Facebook is the changing face of the world, but it's indicative of the fact that people are looking to new kinds of organizing structures. They're not looking to the state anymore, maybe to tribes, maybe to even, you know, the old political parties like the Muslim Brotherhood, which you can say is an old political party, that people aren't looking to those to be able to try and improve their lives, that people are organizing in new kinds of ways. So what we've seen is so much discussion about Tunisia and about Egypt, about Syria today, is about people no longer being afraid of the state, no longer being afraid to stand up to the police, wanting to have that dignity. But there's I'm just giving you some broad strokes of it, that there's a structural change that's taking place in every one of these countries behind the scenes.
Thank you very much. Now, Sarah, what's happening now, and what have we learned from the past couple of months? What's going on in Egypt?
Well, a lot of things are going on in Egypt in the last couple of months, but I think I wanted to try to focus a little bit on what we might call some of the more deep structure issues that might be happening culturally. And when Ashraf asked me to join this panel, I tried to think about what value I might be able to add with this distinguished panel here. And I kind of wanted to, I guess, share with you something that I've been thinking about a lot since the revolution started. And I'm actually quite curious to see if your reactions to some of the information or theories that I would like to put out there about some of the things that are happening. I've been thinking about the referendum, which was probably one of the most significant political events since the beginning of the revolution. And as you know, of course, the fact that the majority of Egyptians voted to speed up the elections and to approve a constitution. And that was interpreted in the press and by analysts as essentially a vote for stability. And then overlying that was a lot of reports of the Muslim Brotherhood encouraging Egyptians to vote yes as a kind of protection of Article 2 of the Constitution, which declares Egypt an Islamic state, or actually, right, a little more complicated than that, but for all intents and purposes, that's how it was portrayed. And so which is another way of reading a kind of vote for stability. And in thinking about what that means, that people are still clamoring for a type of stability within this